Robert went over this a little bit. The market approach, which applies to houses, condos, and lots. Cost approach, which is new buildings and new structures. And the income approach, which is apartments, offices, warehouses, etc. The appraiser uses 3 appraisal methods and then correlates this data to arrive at a final valuation for a property. So the comparative approach, this is what you'll see a lot of. It takes the current selling prices of properties similar to the appraised property and adjusts those for prices for any differences. So usually you select 3 or more comparable properties that are recently sold under normal conditions. You make adjustments to comparable sales prices or price. Items only in the comparable are subtracted. Items only in the appraised property are added. The results will give a value range for the subject property. Comparable homes sold for X amount of dollars after adjustments, then the subject home should also sell for X amount of dollars after adjustments. This is the process that you would use when Robert was explaining POs. Basically, as he said, it's in the end of the day, it's really just a quick appraisal for the banks to use so they can get the home sold as quickly as possible, because we all know banks really want their money. So how to adjust a comparable sale. Comps, you'll hear comps a lot. You'll hear that around the office. They say, hey, I put the comps for this so-and-so property, so you should get familiar with it. So subtract the value of any improvements found in the comparable houses, but not in the house to be appraised. Add the value of any improvements found in the appraisal house, but not found in the comparable houses. Adjust also for differences in location, lot size, building size, condition of the property, time differences between the sales. In the MLS, there's a way to pull comps. What you do is you just create a certain report, and then you can pull up to 3 comps, and there's filters for all types of things like that. So the lot size, building size, things like that. If you guys want me to, I can actually go through a demo tomorrow. It's pretty quick. The process isn't very long. I think it's something that you guys should at least see once or twice to kind of get a feel for it, because it's something that you need, like I said, you need to be familiar with. So you compare with the cost of similar unsold properties which have been on the market for a long time. They're probably overpriced. Compare with comparable properties from many different sources. So these are some advantages of the market data method or comps. It's easy to learn, and with little experience, easy to apply. Required information is usually readily available, since they are generally many recent comparable sales. Typically, the sale is within 90 days, if I'm not mistaken. This is the most effective appraisal approach for home and condominium sales. So here are some disadvantages of the market data method. This method requires many recent comparable sales of similar properties. Sometimes you'll just find properties that may have not sold within the area, so it can be a little challenging. Robert said within a half mile, but you can go up to as far as a mile or 2 miles, give or take. The market data method is less valid with certain income properties because a separate analysis of income is required. And also this method is least reliable when there are rapid economic changes. So the cost approach, or the replacement cost method. The cost approach is the process of appraising the property by calculating the cost of the land and buildings as if they were new today, and then subtracting the incurred depreciation in order to arrive at the current value. I don't use this very much. Costs are both direct and indirect. Direct costs, expenditures for labor and materials used in the construction of the improvements, contractors' overhead and profit are generally treated as direct costs. Indirect costs, expenditures other than material and labor costs. Examples would be administrative costs, professional fees, financing costs, insurance, and taxes. So here are the steps in the cost approach. You estimate the land value. You estimate current replacement cost of the improvement. You multiply the square footage by the cost per square foot, which gives you the current replacement cost. And then to estimate the depreciation, and you would subtract it after, so the replacement cost minus the depreciation would equal the present value of improvements. And then you add the land value, so the land value would be, obviously the land value plus the present value of improvements would equal the total value. There's a diagram of this in your book as well. So appraise the land separately. Estimate the value of the vacant land using the market comparison approach. Estimate the replacement cost. So the replacement cost is the cost of a building, a similar new structure today using modern construction methods. The most current information is available from construction cost engineers. There's 3 replacement methods: comparative unit method, unit in place method, and a quantity survey method. The simplest way to determine replacement cost is to determine the square footage, which is obtained by measuring the outside of the structure. So estimate and deduct depreciation. I'm pretty sure all of you are familiar with what depreciation is. I won't go too far into that. So there's 3 types. There's physical deterioration, which is curable or incurable; functional obsolescence, which is curable or incurable; and economic obsolescence, which is incurable. Why would that be? Because you can't control economic factors surrounding your home. So the value of the property, add the depreciated value of any improvements to the value of the land. This figure is the market value of a property using the cost approach. So here are some advantages: new buildings, unique structures, public buildings. Cost equals value when improvements are new and of the highest and best use. So disadvantages: there must be an accurate value of the site or land. Since determining depreciation is more difficult as buildings age, the reliability of the depreciation estimate may be questioned. This approach may be difficult to apply to condos or planned unit developments because the land improvements and marketing costs are not always easy to determine just for appraising one unit. So the third approach, the capitalization approach or the income approach. Here are the steps. This is also in your book. You would calculate annual gross income, compute an operating expense statement, and deduct related operating expenses from gross income to get net income. Divide net income by the appropriate capitalization rate. And the total value would result of the dividing net income by capitalization rate. This is also in your book. So to calculate the annual effective gross income, figure out how much gross rental income is currently being generated if the property is fully rented. Adjust this figure upward if more rent could be charged, and downward if rent is too high and causing a lot of vacancies. To complete an operating expense statement, these are basic expense categories: property taxes, insurance and licenses, manager fees, utilities, maintenance, repairs and services, replacement reserves, the cost of replacing an item in the future. So you would deduct operating expenses, which would be step 2, from gross income, which is step 1 to get net income. Divide net income by the appropriate capitalization rate. And finally, result of dividing net income by the appropriate capitalization rate. So the gross rent multiplier, we heard about this. Multiplication rule of thumb for converting rental value into market value. So neighborhoods have determinable multipliers. Select the proper multiplier, find out the gross rents of the appraisal property, multiply the rent times the multiplier. The result is the approximate value of the property, not an accurate appraisal by any means. So here are some advantages. The advantage of the income approach method is that no other method focuses solely on determining the present value of the future income stream from the subject property. Excuse me. Emphasis is on the income generated by the real property. This is of primary importance to investment buyers. Value of the property. Go figure. So disadvantages: sometimes difficult to determine the capitalization rate. It may also be difficult to estimate vacancy rate, economic rent, operation expenses, and reserve requirements. Basically, it's just not super reliable. So the reconciliation of value. So to reconcile some of these, the process of selecting the most appropriate appraisal method for a particular type of property and giving it the most consideration in pinpointing final value. The final estimate of value, or the appraisal report, the documentation of the appraisal's findings. There are two main types: short form with checks and explanations, and narrative, most complete and extensive. So the process: you would describe the property, propose and scope the appraisal, description of the neighborhood, date at which the value is estimated. This is also in your book as well. So the cost of an appraisal. This is little need. There is little need to pay for an expensive appraisal simply to determine the selling price for a home or condominium. Yeah, there you go. A local broker can help you. On the other hand, appraisal for large parcels, commercial buildings, and apartment houses or appraisals to be used in court may require the services of a highly skilled appraiser. I believe so because it's just a bigger property, and when you have multiple tenants, there's more risk factors to the property itself. So licensing fee appraisers and appraisal organizations. So in California, you can be a trainee appraiser, a licensed residential appraiser, certified residential appraiser, and a certified general appraiser. These are the 2015 requirements. A trainee license is none. A residential license, you need 30 semester credit hours of a college level education from an accredited college, junior college, community college, or university, or an associate's degree or higher in any field. To get your certified residential license, a bachelor's degree or higher in any field from an accredited college or university, and then a certified general license, these same requirements as well. So fee appraisers, they are independent and self-employed appraisers. He or she appraises for a fee or charge. So website to the National Association of Independent Fee Appraisers, and that is the chapter. And I think we will end